Sacred Rite, the initiation of the queens of ancient Egypt. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. You listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Ujumbe means message. And we are in the Queens of the South series. The first female pharaoh, Sobekneferu, the goddess of the seven stars. The link is in the description. So we're talking about the sacred rite, the initiation of the queens of ancient Egypt. And we're going to talk about the initiation of the queens of Egypt. And so we have a few questions. How did Queen Sobekneferu become king? Okay. Was there an initiation process? Yeah. And the fam asked the question, what was the process like when the king wanted to step down or bring someone else in his place? That's a good question. And was there a woman who was queen going through any of these initiations? Last fall we discussed the priests and their process of how they like Imhotep and how they became priests or how they became the Kari Heb. So Brother Mo asked a question: was there any queen that went through these initiations? We're going to talk about that today. So today we will discuss chapter 5 and 6 of the book. So in this section, we're going to talk about the cult of Sobekneferu and and the Heb Sed mystery. Yeah, we're going to talk about the initiation process, queens who became pharaohs, with a few exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule, right? And we're going to try to answer a few questions. All right. So part one, chapter 4, the cult of Sobekneferu. Yes, there was a cult of Sobekneferu. All right. So Andrew Collins, he says this: further representations of Sobekneferu from her brief reign provide us with a even greater insight into her personality. All right. Her background and her achievements in life. So they include three near life size basalt statues of the monarch found in Tel Adab in Egypt's Nile Delta. It's fairly close to the border with Palestine. Now, he says the entire district marked the former site of the ancient Egyptian city of Avaris, ancient city, ancient city of Avaris, the future capital of the Hyksos kings. They have not got into power yet. These shepherd guys from the east have not rose to power yet, but they're setting up. They're setting up camp. All right. So he says whose forerunners had begun occupying northern Egypt around 1700 before Common Era, BCE. This being about century after Sobekneferu's death. So the Hyksos kings are already setting up shop. All right. So the cult of Sobekneferu. Now, Collins stated there were two statues found. One was made of basalt, dated during the reign of Sobekneferu. Now, they bore the inscriptions of her Horus or Haru name Merit Ra and her name Sebek Kara. They bore inscriptions with Horus name or Haru name Merit Ra and her name Sebek Kara. Now, there's something else I learned about this name. See, I told you guys before, names are important, right? So we're gonna get to that in a minute. Merit Ra. Hold that thought, right? Hold on to it. So along there, when they discovered the statue, there was a proclamation that she was beloved of Sobek, the Fayumite Shedeti, the Horus residing in the Fayum in peace. Sobek, who is in blank. Now, most of that part, according to the book, a lot of that has been the hieroglyphic is missing beyond this point. Although one of the statues bore a more complete inscription that allowed Hibachi, who was an archaeologist, Hibachi, to read the next line. Sebek, who was the kin Kintishi in Para. Huh, what's that? Now, the curious term kin tishi in para, meaning the garden of the palace. Okay, garden of the palace. Now, this is identified as a very likely place of residence for the crocodile Neter Sobek in the Tel Adab area. Okay, so this was a major location. This is a major location of knowledge and culture, right? So he says, noting that the old name for the area where the statues have been found, it means the mound of pools. Okay, so Hibachi suspected that this was the former site of a Sobek temple. So this has been an area that was religiously used for a very long time. All right, let's go. Now the question: was she a priestess though? Was she a priestess? Okay, there is another statue that they found. There's another statue that they found. Get the book. There's another statue. Now, because the reason why I'm asking the question in the book, I'm sorry, in the book it shows Sobekneferu kneeling in prayer. Now, I can't find the exact picture for the presentation. So, but I'm gonna say this. Often when the statue of a person in Kemet or anywhere is kneeling, they're in prayer, right? So most of the time, they usually in either hold out in each hand a new pot, any NW pot, a new pot. These pots were used to pour libations to a deity or for the divine ancestors. Okay, so these pots were used to pour libation, an African custom. Okay, to pour libations to a deity or for the divine ancestors. Okay, that's African culture, right? So in this case, Sobekneferu was being shown as performing a priestly duty. Okay. All right. So Collins observed that she sought wisdom and counsel from the gods to help rule according to Ma'at, according to justice, according to righteousness, according to balance. Because outside of balance or justice, what do you have? You have chaos, right? So this illustration, because the statue that is shown in the book is it shows the waist down kneeling. It does not show the waist up. So it illustrates that she was an intermediary between her people and the Neteru. Now, if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss anything. All right. So we are getting further and further into this information. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's go. Now, I told you I was gonna come back and get it. I told you. Now, another interesting point was that Sobekneferu's Horus name, Merit Ra, blood of Ra, this name was often used in the 12th dynasty as a title for a priestess. Yeah. What do you think? Now, honestly, I think that she was a priestess. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay, that's my opinion. She before she ascended as king, as Insubiti, as Pharaoh, she was a priestess. Okay, that's my thought. Now, so but what do you think though? What do you guys think? Did she serve as a princess? Served in this role as princess while her father and brother ruled? Okay, what do you think? Do you think that she? Because the book doesn't say. It really doesn't say. So like and comment below. All right. So dealing with the cult of Sobekneferu, it gets interesting because it takes a winding turn. So as they went to do their discovery and their archaeological findings, they found that one of the scarabs or Zephyr found bore the name king of that period, confirming that burials in that area and deposits were indeed of the 13th dynasty. Okay. So they found next to the large sphinx, uh, found at Katana and were anterior to the time of the Hyksos. It's very important since it is clear that there's evidence of a cult existing during the reign of the female monarchs. So there was some folk that was really serious about Sobekneferu. There was some folk that really would ride or die for the Queen of Egypt. So there was a cult of Sobekneferu. There was some people that was really serious about it. So now we have another faction. Okay, for those who are keeping track, we have the priest of Amun. Them boys are some serious down there in Thebes. We have the priest of Ptah in Mennefer or Memphis, and we have the priest of Sobek right out there in Shadet. Now we have the cult of Sobekneferu. Man, and they for them 3 years they was something like fanatical, right? They was something serious. So if correct, then it implies that following her death, Sobekneferu was being venerated in the future capital of the Hyksos. So she was one, I told you many times before, kings become legends, legends become legendary. So Sobekneferu gained that legendary status. And so there's further evidence that there was somebody else in the picture, Senat the priestess. Senat the priestess. What about her? It shows that there's some evidence of a Cult of Sobekneferu names. It comes from a tourist graffiti in a chapel attached to a tomb of a woman named Senat. What do we know about her? Who is she? Now, she was buried alongside her husband or son. This is page 50. She was buried alongside her husband or son, whose name, get this, is Antifakur. Y'all are childish. Man. Okay. I'm trying to be serious. Her name is his name is Antifakur. Antefoquer. Y'all say that did. Put that in the comment. Let me know. All right. This person was vizier to Amenemhat the First, the founder of the 12th dynasty, and afterward to his son Senuseret the First. It's not known whether Senat was Antifakur's mother or wife, since nothing is made clear. But what we do know that she was a priestess of the goddess Hathor or Het Harut. So she did have some kind of status during that time. She did have some sort of power. So she knows this. And so I'm sure that she used that to ignite or inspire the cult of Sobekneferu. She had the knowledge. She had the information. Some people use it for right reasons. Some people use it for the wrong reasons, right? So it is arguably because of the uniqueness of the tomb of Senat, it would receive visitors even during the New Kingdom, okay, who would enter his funerary chapel to pay their respects to the deceased Ka or the ancestors, the part of the soul that remained close to the place of interment. So much of the graffiti, okay, this is page 51. Okay, much of the graffiti inside the tomb of Senat simply includes the name of the visitor and what they thought of the tomb. Some tourists, quote unquote, however, were going there for a specific reason. This can be determined by two inscriptions. Two inscriptions. Um, it says one reads the scribe came to see the tomb of Sobekneferu. So these people 1,000 years later, this is mind-boggling to me. This is mind-boggling to me. This is amazing to me that the new kingdom is old to us. This is ancient to us. These people are visiting the tomb in that area in the new kingdom. They're looking for the tomb of Sobekneferu. They're looking for an ancient tomb. That's crazy, right? They I tell my students all the time when King Tut, who was about 17, 18 years old, looked at the pyramids were already old. They was already ancient to him, right? Let's go. That's some good stuff, y'all. So Senat the priestess, they came to her tomb looking for Sobekneferu. He found it, and he found it like heaven in its interior. That's what he says. Okay. A second example, using very similar terminology, reads the scribe Bach came to see this tomb of this time of Sobekneferu. He found it like heaven in its interior. So they went to look for, and apparently they found the tomb of Sobekneferu. But where is her final resting place now? What do we know about it? Where is she laid to rest? Huh. Because it can be recalled that this was during the early period, so her true final resting place has never been found. Nobody would seem to have officially recorded what happened to her at the end of her reign. Nobody knows. So you're saying nobody knows what happened to this influential king slash queen of Egypt. Nobody knows. Matter of fact, when I looked in this book, the Ancient Records of Egypt, Volume 1, there's nothing about her here either. It skips. So that's mind-boggling. So, but having said this, he says this. Having said this, there are solid contextual grounds to suspect that one of the two pyramids in Manzguna, the site just beyond the Nile Valley, south of the main pyramid field of Dashur, might have been her intended final resting place, but we don't know. We don't know. But okay, we are going to have a live series finale towards the end of this session. Fall from grace. We're going to get into that discussion about what happened to uh Sobekneferu and her brother, because I think something happened. We're going to try to find out who was involved. We're going to try to find out who got who, and did she get her hands dirty? Mm. Now, part part one, chapter 6, the Heb Sed Mystery. The Heb Sed Mystery. And so the statues of Sobekneferu uh, from the Paris and ones from Berlin, with as well as the found in Nile Delta, help us better understand how much the monarch wanted to be perceived. Okay, um, and so they were designed for like a PR, public relations thing. And so she wanted to be perceived by those who gaze upon her living form. However, they do not provide us with a clear impression of what exactly was going on during her reign. Nothing really says anything about her life because Akhenaten, he he used the hieroglyphics and the walls as like social media. He posted all the time. Ramses did too. But there's nothing about Sobekneferu here. Or it shows or how she came to wear the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. So there's question about that. All right. My initial response, okay, dealing with her right to rulership, my initial response was duh, she's the king's daughter. What are you talking about, bro? What are you saying? It's the king's daughter. She by rights is the heir to the throne. But because one of her names is the crown is established. That's her name. But she still had to undergo a process. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a second. She still had to undergo some kind of process. Somebody wasn't happy about this. You say, yeah, you may be born like this, but are you about that though? Right? So in the book, one of the pieces of statuary that might just offer us a better idea of Sobekneferu's reign is held in New York, in the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. I need to go there and check that out. Okay. So it is a small figurine of a royal woman made of dark green cyst. Schist. Cyst. It is 6.4 inches high, 4.3 inches wide, with a depth of 2.9 inches. But nothing remains of the statue below the waistline. They like tearing up statues either above the waist or below the waist. It's crazy. Okay. Although it's clear that the figure was in a seated position. In a seated position. Although the statuette bears no inscription, the museum is confident that it belonged to the 12th dynasty or early 13th dynasty. So they're confident that it happened during Sobekneferu's period, and it may have been Sobekneferu. Now, according to Collins, the royal female in question wears a thick, high-collared cloak, okay, from which her left hand emerges to connect with her right breast. Okay, her garment is that which would have been worn by ruling monarchs. So everybody can't wear that, right? So the garment would have been worn by a ruling monarch following his or her completion of the Heb Sed festival, also known as the Sed festival. So this would take place. Now, the Heb Sed festival would take place around the 30th year of a monarch's reign, and involve a series of rigorous tasks and trials. I know what you're thinking. Hold on. Now, what is though? Before we get to that, what is the Heb Sed mystery? What is that? What is that about? But I got a question. I got an important question though. It's very important. Very important. Pay attention. Very important. Got a question. Coffee or tea? Coffee or tea? Like and comment below. That's good. Coffee or tea? Like and comment below. Now, what is the Heb Sed mystery? Now, the Heb Sed or Sed festival was an ancient Egyptian royal ceremony and ritual of renewal celebrated by pharaohs after 30 years of rule. But she only, okay, 30 years of rule and then every 3 to 4 years thereafter. This is important. Okay, this important ritual dates back to pre-dynastic times and continued throughout Egypt's history. The primary purpose of the Heb Sed festival was to rejuvenate the king's strength and power, as pharaohs were considered divine intermediaries between the gods and humans. Their physical vitality was connected to the prosperity of Egypt itself. You had to be in shape. Okay, it wasn't just you up here chilling, sitting on the throne with your arms crossed, looking all snooty and whatnot, looking at the people. You had to be in shape. Why? Because you may have to get active. You may have to get out there and throw hands. These pharaohs were in shape while they ruled, as old as they could have been. Ramses had to do it. At 30 years of rule, he's already up in age, and then every 3 or 4 years after that. I got. What if our leaders had to do that? Had to take some kind of physical fitness test every 3 to 4 years. How do you think our leaders would do? I know one thing. I may struggle. I may struggle. All right. What do you think? What do you think? Should our leaders take a physical fitness test like the Heb Sed festival? All right. So Pharaoh, they had to do it. They had to be in shape. The ritual served as a symbolically renew the king's rule and to demonstrate their continued fitness to govern. It wasn't just knowledge, it wasn't just information, it wasn't just politics. They had to be physically able to do this. Now, the ritualistic run, I don't think it was a ritual. They had to take off. They say, you see that hill over there? Go. The ritualistic run performed by the pharaoh around a designated course where they would demonstrate a physical prowess by running between markers representing Upper and Lower Egypt. Like the marathon, like a marathon or a 5K. They had to do that. The pharaoh would wear a special shortened cloak and hold royal regalia, including the crook and flail. The ritual involved the pharaoh sitting on the thrones representing Upper and Lower Egypt, various offerings and ceremonies involving high officials and priests. Some scholars debate about its symbolic meaning. Okay, what do you think? Okay, is it just physical or did it mean something? All right, comment below. But I think this though. Um, I think it was more than just a physical thing. I believe there is some symbolism about that. There is some symbolism about there is some meaning behind it. I'm sure it may be lost to time, but it's something about that. Okay, but every 30 years and then 3 to 4, Sobekneferu, as you guys remember, she only reigned three years and some change, right? So, yeah, you guys caught it. She only reigned for under 4 years, meaning there could be no good reason why she have it on. Okay, everything's symbolic. So why is this female ruler of the 12th dynasty put that on unless they went through some kind of process? That everything means something. You don't just put stuff on and you don't know what it means or you don't know what it's about. All right. So what do you think? All right. Before I get to it though, there is a quiz review. All right. According to the video, the Essentials of the Queens of Ancient Egypt, what is not another word for Memphis? Mennefer, Hetkapata, Shadet, the Jed Saut. Okay. The correct answer is Sadet. Okay. The other three, that it were other names for Memphis. All right. Check that video out. All right. If you are right, okay, if you're right, like and comment below. If you got the answer correct, don't cheat. Don't cheat. Okay. If you got it right the first time, hit the button. Now, let's recap though. Memphis is the capital of Lower Egypt. The original name of the city was Eneb Hedge, White Walls. It was the first nome in the Lower Egypt established by the first pharaoh of Egypt, which is Menes, right? Nefer, right? So the old kingdom, they called it the Jesuit, everlasting places, and the Middle Kingdom, Anktawi, a place where the two lands live. And as I mentioned before, when you see a circle with an X on the inside of it, that means it is a place, it is a location. All right. And so, of course, Memphis of Mennefer means enduring and beautiful. And Hetzkah is the house of Solar Ptah, or house creation, rebirth, and change. Sadet, remember, Sadet is the capital of the Fayum region. Now, if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to subscribe. Now, but we're going to get into this. Who was the real mother of King Tut, though? We're going to talk about that. All right. We're going to talk about DNA, dynasties, and deception, the hunt for the true mother of King Tut. We're going to talk about that because people got questions. Okay. Shout out to Ronald Westcott. He said, well, I know that the family and her son, Tutankhamun, the boy king, add three generation family paternal DNA and maternal DNA is R1B. Okay. And K, this is the DNA that myself and my daughter have, the same DNA. Shout out to Ronald Westcott. He basically is making the scientific reasoning that the R1B genetic code is in the southern part of the Nile Valley. Okay. So it came from the southern part of the Nile Valley. So the culture and their genetics came from the south. Also, shout out to Ali9532, one of our alumni. That topic regarding the symbols or the Jed representing everlasting, our genetics are everlasting. Okay? Our genetics are everlasting. Still digging up artifacts today as science advances, so does the DNA of one of those many ancient bones found in Egypt. Get this though, whenever they do genetic research, most of the time, they do not do the royal mummies. They don't do them. But they would do that. Find somebody, some random cat, some random person from the Greco-Roman period who was buried in Egypt, and say, "See, they have Mediterranean and European DNA." What do you think? Comment below. But we are going to get into that. So, but the old kingdom, the Jesaut are everlasting places. Ali says that topic regarding the symbols representing everlasting, our genetics are everlasting. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that though. We're gonna talk about the Jed and everything the next few weeks. I'm very excited. I'm glad you brought that up because we're gonna discuss that the Jed Saut because when you look at it, I think some people broke it down. It looked like the spinal column. All right, but yeah, but the this symbol we brought this down in a serious discussion. Discussed serious this symbol with the circle that looked like a half ankh. It is a shim. That means everlasting. That means eternal. Okay. That means eternal. So, because remember, when you see the symbol of life, the ankh, it has the little stem at the bottom, circle a little bit, and then lines, and then the stem at the bottom. But without the stem at the bottom, that means eternal. That means everlasting. But we did break this down also a few months ago. Check the video out. Now, but we are going to talk about DNA dynasties and deception. The hunt for the true mother of King Tut is coming soon. Now, everything is symbolic, but she also has something else on. She has something else on. This is see if you look close. Come on, fam, look close. We know she has the cloak on, but something else she has on. See it? Oh yeah, yeah. On this statue, you notice her headdress. Okay, her hair wrapped behind her ears, and at the corner of her forehead is the remnants of the raised cobra representing Wadjet. Wadjet, the symbol of protection. And the rest of the snake curls around her scalp. You see the top of the scalp, you see a little circular motion there. And then you see the two incised vultures with their wings outstretched. So we have Wadjet and Nekhbet. Okay. Everybody can't put that on. Everybody can't wear that. She already has this on, which I'm still trying to find out how to. In 3 years, were you able to do that? But now she has the double crown representing protection in Upper and Lower Egypt. Because remember her NBT name is Set Sekem Nepatawi. Set Sekem Nepatawi, the daughter of the powerful and mistress of the two lands. That means that the protection of the Nekhbet and Wadjet would have been bestowed upon her at the time of her coronation. So she was official, but she was made official though. She had to go through a process, y'all. I'm thinking about it. She had to go through that process, right? So she was the daughter of the powerful one, mistress of the two lands, meaning protection of the Nekhbet and Wadjet. The two ladies, yeah, two ladies. The vulture crown associated with the goddess Nekhbet was one of the most important symbols of queenship in ancient Egypt. Nekhbet, the vulture goddess of Upper Egypt, was seen as divine protector of the pharaoh and the nation, be it male or female. The vulture itself is a sacred bird symbolizing maternal care and watchful protection, and queens who wore the vulture crown were believed to embody those qualities. So every every queen didn't have that on either. This getting interesting. You just didn't put things on just because it looked nice or it matches. It represented something. So every queen, based on this definition, based on this term, every queen could not have this on. All right. So the crown itself consisted of a vulture figure, and outspread wings, often depicting hovering over the queen's head. It was like overshadowing of the queen's head. The symbol reinforced the idea that the queen was divinely sanctioned to act as guardian of Egypt. Sobekneferu was seen as a guardian of Egypt. All right. Wadjet, okay, Wadjet, also spelled Wadjet, translate Uadjet, translates to green one. Okay, being green, and offers and refers to a cobra goddess, the patron deity of Lower Egypt and protector of kings, often depicted as a cobra twined around a papyrus stem. So Neferu put them together. That was her royal titulary. That was her royal titulary. She put those two together. Now, but the question is, have you heard of the tale of the two ladies? We'll talk about that because we're gonna in the next few weeks. Next week, hopefully, we will be unlocking comedic wisdom. The fam is coming out. I got some special guests coming on. They're gonna talk about a lot of things and their books. All right, I'm very excited about it. Next Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time is going down. All right, so dealing with the Heb Sed mystery, it is possible that the figure shows that Sobekneferu at her coronation might imply that she was trying to convey the fact that she herself had undergone a special trial, or special trials comparable to those of the Heb Sed festival. So, according to Collins, she went through a process. Okay, it may have been rushed though, but she had to go through. There's some things that you have to do. There's some people that you have to appease, right? Yeah, you may have been born queen, born king here. Yeah, your brother may have died. We're not sure how though. You still got to undergo a special trial. Okay, what did the trials entail? Okay, I know it was a rush process. But one thing for sure, it had to have been had to be recognized and accepted by the royal court and the priesthood. So everybody had to agree. If you are the ruler of the North and South, we all had to accept you as such. We have to receive you as such. So this would include the priest of Sebek of Shadet, the priest of Ra and Heliopolis, and you know them boys, the priest of Amun in Thebes. So yeah, they say you might be born queen, but you need to be made queen. So they all was at that session. Man, that that I'm sure was pretty interesting. I'm sure that some things was business was handled. All right. Yeah, you may be born queen, but you need to be made queen. The priest of Sebek was there, priest of Ra was there, and them boys down south. They came. So in chapter 6, the Heb Sed mystery, it's really interesting and enlightening to know that Sobekneferu, uh, the process of how she ascended to the throne remains a matter of debate, but it shows that she did ascend rightfully, and she was received as queen and king of Egypt. But now get this though. The special process, if we accept this process, if we accept it, if we realize that she went through a special process, either she went through the special process before coronation or when she was 16, when her brother entered into brief 1 or 2 year co-regency with her father, she may have been through the process then when she was 16. Okay. Or if she was 25 when her brother entered the co-regency, she may have went through a process. Okay. So there may have been moments in time where she had to undergo that. All right. Let's go. Now, we're going to talk about, we just talked about chapter 5 and the cult of Sobekneferu and the Heb Sed mystery. Now, we're going to get into the initiation process. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so ancient Egypt was one of the most advanced and enduring civilizations of the ancient world, with a structured monarchy that placed a great significance on divine rulership. While the pharaoh was the supreme ruler, queens played a crucial role in ensuring stability and continuity of the throne. Now, far from being just their wives, though, Egyptian queens held political, religious, and ceremonial authority, which some even ascended to the throne as rulers. Queenship in Egypt was primarily determined by lineage. We discussed that before, marriage and religious endorsement, with many queens originating from the royal bloodline. The priesthood played a fundamental role in legitimizing the queen's authority through sacred rituals and divine proclamations. Ceremonial rites, sacred rites, including coronation processes, initiation rituals, and further solidified their status within the monarchy. Now, some sources say there's no direct evidence of formal. This is what the sources say. There's no direct evidence. We see everything, but we don't see anything. Some sources say that there's no direct evidence of a formal initiation process for queens. Various ceremonial rites marked their ascension. But we know there's a process. We just got through talking about that Queen Sobekneferu had a special process. So they went through something. All right. Now, queens were often depicted participating in sacred rituals, okay, which may have served as initiation into their divine role. The process of queenship may have included a series of religious ceremonies that validated their status as intermediaries between gods and the people. Now, some scholars argue that queens underwent purification rites before their formal recognition, because the question is, what was their initiation process? Purification for sure. These rituals performed in sacred temples likely included offerings to the gods, uh, anointment with sacred oils, the donning of specific regalia, like the Heb Sed cloak or cloak, such as the vulture crown, which symbolized protection and divine authority. Um, Now, here are some initiation processes, right? Queens of ancient Egypt had a complex and it involved several important rituals and ceremonies. One of them is the royal marriage ceremony. The primary path to queenship was through marriage to the pharaoh. okay, often accompanied by elaborate ceremonies. All right, these marriages were sometimes arranged for political alliances and could include foreign princesses, coronation rituals. While it's not as elaborate as the pharaoh's coronation, the queens would receive royal regalia, including the vulture headdress representing Upper Egypt and the uraeus or cobra symbol. So, Nekhbet and Wadjet, that symbolizes royal authority. Another thing, divine association. Okay, we talked about how Queen Sobekneferu, she aligned herself with Sobek, right? Queens were initiated into divine roles, often associated with goddesses like Heteru, Hathor, Isis, or Mut, M-U-T, Mut. Okay, this association was formalized through rituals that connected the queen to these divine powers. Temple ceremonies, as part of their initiation, queens would participate in temple rituals, often related to fertility and abundance, reflecting their role in ensuring the royal ascension or succession. Titulary establishment. The queens would receive formal titles that establish their position, such as the great royal wife, lady of the two lands, or God's wife, or daughter of the powerful one, like Sebek Neferu, daughter of the powerful one, right? Now, quiz review though. According to Lost Kingdoms of the Ancient Fayum, what was the capital city of Fayum? Thebes, Memphis, Sadet? The answer is Sadet. All right, you guys are doing good. That's good. Let's go. Remember, there was multiple seats of power. I learned Thebes wasn't the only seat of power. Okay, and so in the Fayum area, in the Memphis area, all right, Sadet. Okay, Sadet right here. All right, was that major area. Sadet was the capital. Fayum, the Fayum Oasis was the region. Okay. Now, dealing with the initiation of the Queens of Ancient Egypt, one of the fam is saying quite fascinating the stories of the female pharaohs. I must say, it's a lot of information to process. It is. I did take some notes. She said two queens stood out for me. First off, Queen Hatshepsut, with the way she portrayed herself, beard and all. It made sense because of society in which she lived. Second Queen Sobekneferu, who, as you mentioned, was directly descendant of pharaohs. Plus, she sought to rule Egypt in a more traditional way versus the progressive way in which her brother ruled during her reign. Shout out to Mama Shalanda 9822. Shout out to the fam. Yeah, we're all learning together, y'all. I'm excited about that. So we talked about really quick. We're gonna get into the queens who became pharaohs with a few exceptions. I forgot to answer that. Queens who became pharaohs with a few exceptions. Sebek Neferu, okay. Sebek Neferu was the first confirmed female pharaoh of Egypt, as we're talking about her, as the daughter of Pharaoh Amenemhat the third of the 12th dynasty. She ascended to the throne after the death of her brother. You know, we still got to talk about that. Sebek Neferu adopted traditional male role, as we just mentioned, as the fam just mentioned, the traditional male role, royal regalia and title signify her acceptance as a legitimate ruler. Hatshepsut, okay, one of the most renowned female pharaohs, assumed power during the 18th dynasty, centuries later. As a daughter of Pharaoh Tutmosis the First and the great royal wife Amos, she was married to her half brother, which is weird, Tutmosis II. After his death, she initially served as regent for her young stepson Tutmosis the Third. That was wait a minute. So I didn't. I'm learning something new all the time. Tutmosis the Third. That was her stepson. Now we kind of understand why when he got into power, he started knocking stuff down. Was there some was there some friction between them two? Hmm. So Hatshepsut's reign was marked by stability, economic prosperity, and grand architectural achievements, including the construction of her mortuary temple at Del Bahari. Unlike many rulers who engaged in military conquest, Hatshepsut focused on trade expeditions. She went to the land of Punt, okay, Ta Neter, God's land. Okay, she did it. She mentioned that, and she had trade expeditions elsewhere, particularly the land of Punt, which brought wealth and resources to Egypt. Tai, Queen Tai, King Tut's granny. That's King, King Tut's granny. Okay, although Tai and her daughter-in-law Nefertiti never ruled as pharaohs, their influence over the kingdom was immense. Okay, Queen Tai, the wife of Amenhotep III, wielded extraordinary political and diplomatic power, often depicted as an equal to her husband. You will see pictures of her sitting right next to Tutmosis III. I'm sorry, Amenhotep III. She played a crucial role in maintaining international relations and was respected by foreign rulers. Now, similarly, Queen Nefertiti, the wife of Akhenaten, was instrumental in religious reforms, particularly in the promotion of Atonism. Okay, the belief in one God. In that sense, some scholars speculate that she may have briefly ruled Egypt after her husband's death. Well, okay, that's interesting. Okay, these queens, though, Queen Tai and Nefertiti, these queens exemplify how Egyptian royal women could wield power beyond the traditional role of just the king's wife, just the girl over there. Okay, but what about your top five? Yeah, we're gonna talk about the queens of the Nile Valley. We're gonna talk about my top five queens of the Nile Valley and a bonus. So, yeah, there's a bonus. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk. I do have my top five. All right, you have your top five ready too. And should we discuss the top five priestesses of Egypt? Right. So let me know. Now we talked about the cult of Sobekneferu, the Heb Sed mystery, the initiation process. We answered a few questions. But what? Wait a minute. What was the process like when the king wanted to step down? Hmm. Another time. We out of time. So, but the queens of ancient Egypt were far more than the wives of kings. They were pivotal figures in maintaining dynastic continuity, religious traditions, and political stability. Okay, while most queens gained their position through marriage or birthright, a few exceptional women broke barriers and ruled as pharaohs, shaping the course of Egyptian history. The priesthood played a vital role, as you can see, in legitimizing their rule as insubiti, and ceremonial initiation processes ensured their divine connection. Symbols such as the vulture crown and the goddess Nekhbet reinforce the sacred nature of queenship, while the legacy of rulers like Hatshepsut and Sobekneferu proved that women could wield supreme power. The Egyptian queenship was not merely an extension of the pharaoh's authority, but complex institution that allowed women to ascend to the highest levels of political and religious influence. Their reign served as lasting testaments to the power and resilience of female leadership in one of history's greatest civilizations. We just talked about sacred rite, the initiation of the queens of ancient Egypt. If you want to know more about the queens of the South, I do have a video about that. If you want to know about the series, got a playlist. All right, listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Ujumbe means message, and I will talk to you later. Two up.